The ghost of John F. Kennedy confronts us with the secret murder at the heart of the American dream. He forces on us the appalling questions of what is our Constitution made? What is our citizenship and more our lives worth? What is the future of a democracy where a president can be assassinated under conspicuously suspicious circumstances while the machinery of legal action scarcely trembles? How many more political murders disguised as heart attacks, suicides, cancers, drug overdoses? How many airplane and car crashes will occur before they are exposed for what they are? Treason doth never prosper, wrote an English poet. What's the reason? For if it prosper, none dare call it treason.
Governments lie all the time. Oh, not just the American government. It's just in the nature of governments. Well, they have to lie. And since they don't represent the people, and so since they act against the interest of the people, the only way they can hold power is if they lie to the people.
You don't know what I know. You can't see the spreading stain of deception. I am cruel to myself. Things will never be the same.
If they told people the truth, they wouldn't last very long.
I will hold my silence like a weapon in my hand. If I used it, I would murder myself. You could never understand.
Columbus came ashore greeted with nothing but niceness, sailing west in attempt to find golden spices, dominated by the popes and frenzy for ISIS. The Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. The first man to see land would get a reward and get a yearly pension for life, clearly from God. A young sailor saw land, said we isn't far. Columbus lied, said he saw it the evening before. They touched ground, they were greeted by the Arawak. Columbus had them locked up as prisoners in an hour flat. He wanted to find a source of gold, and that was that. And when they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed they back. When there was no more gold, he took slaves instead and left 250,000 Indians in Haiti dead. The men died in mines, the women died at work, the children died from lack of milk and they died in the dirt. They were just taking advantage of a passive people. They were just being the savages of massive evil. That's the church work, that's the path of massive ego. That's the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple. At 16, 19, they were patiently waiting for a ship to carry slaves that was changing the nation. The white man was a cannibal praying to Satan. Hatred, contempt, or pity, or patronization. That's the cornerstone, everything racism based in. The African had a more advanced civilization. Black was slave, master was white, rationalization. 50 million dead, that's Western civilization. At first they appeared in the north, and they were helpless in the face of superior force. And all of them were chained together, they really was lost. Racism isn't natural, it's merely divorce. Before the slave trade, black was considered distasteful. By the Oxford Dictionary, I found it disgraceful. It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. It's a natural enemy of the critical staple. Slavery grew as the plantation system grew. The reason for that's kinda easily traceable. Society of helpless dependence was capable of saying fuck a slave master, you in slavery too. 7 slaves were put to death for murdering master. Fear of slave revolt had them developing faster. You a Catalan killer, an elegant bastard. I would burn the white man while smelling the ashes. From time to time, white man was part of the resistance. White indentured servants wanted no part of the system. King Phillips' war showed that if people would listen, that they could maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is tyranny, but that's a concession. But the women, they was treated like that of possessions. Black women had it work cause they was abused. That's the white justification of Aryan blues. The next move was to dominate the Mexicans. James Polk dominated them like they was next to kin. He sent Colonel Cross to lie to them and let them in. 11 days later his skull was crushed, so message sent. We take nothing by conquest, that was the mantra. The military wasn't human, they were just monsters. Henry David Thoreau refused to pay his taxes. Denounced the Mexican War and got locked in shackles. The 20th century opened, anger re-emerged. Reality of ordinary life was being heard. Anarchists and feminists came from factory work. Communism, socialism seemed to be rebirth. War is the health of the state, is what Bourne said. And if you was born around that time, you was born dead. The espionage act had people confused, cause it was double talking, they didn't know how it be used. Supposedly it was an act against spying. Du Bois noted that was bullshit and they was lying. Charles Schenck was arrested in Philadelphia for printing and distributing leaflets cause they was helping you. He was indicted, tried and then found guilty, and spent 6 months in jail. Don't that sound silly? Had his freedom taken away by his own nation. But there's a lesson, do not submit to intimidation. The act still exists today and the shit is real. Supposedly Kennedy tried to have that shit appealed. Eugene Debs did 10 years for no purpose. He obstructed the recruiting and enlistment service. The post office started taking mail privileges of magazines who printed anti-war sentiments. A socialist named Fairchild had it right. He said that they can shoot me but they can't make me fight. They sentenced him to a year in jail and that was reckless. 65,000 men, conscientious objectors. They were sent to army bases to work there. They were treated sadistically and were hurt there. They were strangled with a hemp rope till they collapsed, and officers punched their stomach and their lower back. A garden hose was placed on their face with a nozzle about 6 inches from them so they couldn't swallow. The war ended in 1918. The government was just trying to wipe the slate clean. Hemingway wrote Farewell to Arms. Dalton Trumbo wrote Johnny Got His Gun. The war was over, but they didn't learn their lesson. Twin tactics of control, reform and repression. The patriotic fervor of war had been invoked. That's why the country that you live in is a fucking joke. You cannot be neutral on a moving train. This is a story about the lies that your teacher told you. This is real, actual, factual. No lies in the whole record. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'm trying to share the shit that I learned with y'all. Do the knowledge. Your government does not care about you. The people in power do not care about you. Understand that. Power to the people.
War is like a fix. You know, you get high on war. We won. And then you're down on the ground again. And you need another fix. You need another war. Why do you think we've had war after war after war after war? Every war they say this is the end. This is the last war. In World War I, they said this is the war to end all wars. And then not long after that was World War II. And then soon the United States was waging war in Korea and then in Vietnam. If you study history, what you learn is that wars are always accompanied by lies. Wars are always accompanied by deception.
Rights? Nigga, you ain't got no rights. Them robots are coming here right now and take you to the penitentiary plantation and enslave you for the rest of your fucking life. Either that or give you a casket. So while you dancing to this dumbed down corporation shit, we getting active.
Pop, 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 pop. Load another clip. We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop. Smoke another pill. Pop, 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 pop. Load another clip. We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop. Smoke another. I was told to be a real niggas to be a dead nigga.
A dead nigga.
At the tree of knowledge eating forbidden fruit, they gon' behead niggas.
They gon' behead niggas.
But my OG said I shouldn't hang around a bunch of scared niggas.
Fuck no.
And ever since J. Edgar put a hit on the king, fuck the feds, nigga. Yeah, nigga, I love the Second Amendment, I love the Second Amendment. Got a G26 with extended clips. Got a 1911, that's a Smith & Wesson. But I love revolvers, yeah, them the shit. And I'm bringing them out to play with me on any given day. So motherfuck the police chief and anything he say. Demi bring the K, Kenny bring the semi. I'ma bring the detonators, we about to go Timothy McVeigh. Pop, 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 pop. Load another clip. We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop. Smoke another pill. Pop, 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 pop. Load another clip. We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop. Smoke another pill.
The kick drum is an 808, and the 808 is a 100-round drum. Freedom got a Glock 18. Freedom got a Glock 18.
I was told to be a real nigga's to be a dead nigga.
A dead nigga.
If you prove the pencil's mightier than the sword, they give you lead, nigga.
And just write you off.
Then I was also told you gotta sell your soul to be a breadwinner.
Look at these soft niggas.
If you stop my money, then I'ma load my Glock with them head spinners.
Pop, 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 pop.
I'ma blow your mind cause I'm putting in work and doing overtime. If a cop pull me over while I'm on the grind, they robots for real, they programmed to kill. Exterminator, Terminator, leave them frozen time. Cause justice don't exist, it's a unicorn. Even had a body camera on his uniform. Another murder recorded, another cop rewarded. Judge won't do his job, we gon' do it for him. We going pop, 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 pop.
Load another clip.
We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop.
Smoke another pill.
Pop, 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 pop.
Load another clip.
We gon' be up in your precinct if this shit don't stop.
Smoke another pill.
They don't shoot to disarm, they shoot to kill. They don't shoot to injure, they shoot to kill. No warning shots. Who are you to be warned? They shoot to kill.
Fuck the police, man. Government robots. Programmed to kill niggas on sight. You know what? All those who fight with oppress incur no guilt. The Holy Quran. A time to love, a time to hate, a time for war. The Holy Bible. Amen.
Weapons for all occasions. And everyone got excited about the technology. And I guess it was pretty incredible watching a missile fly down an air vent. Pretty unbelievable. But couldn't we feasibly use that same technology to shoot food at hungry people?
This one is dedicated to the suit-wearing arms dealers, to the champagne-sipping, depleted uranium droppers.
Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone. Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone.
First in my scope is BAE Systems, specialize in killing people from a distance. Power is a drug and they feed the addiction. Immediate deletion of people's existence. Who says what isn't legitimate resistance? To push these buttons, you don't need a brave heart. State of the art darts leave more than your face scarred. You might impress an A&R with your fake bars, cause you probably think Rolls Royce only make cars. This is for the colonizers, turn bomb providers. Take this beef all the way back to Oppenheimer. They call it warfare, but your wars aren't fair. If they were to be suicide bombers in arms fairs, a scam for the funds. They will mangle your son. If you try to speak out, they will stamp on your tongue. To your land they will come till you stand up as one. It's begun.
Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone. Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone.
Next in my scope is Lockheed Martin. They will tell you when the bombs need blasting. Don't think, just listen to the songs, keep dancing. Do they really want us to have our own brains? Who do you think is really running Guantanamo Bay? And it might be sensitive, but I'll mention it. Who do you think's got us filling out the censuses? Who do you think is handing out the sentences? This ain't the BBC, so there's no censorship. Heard of many mercenaries getting with the clever pimp. Not a gun seller, but none's better than Eric Prince. Make money off many things, mainly it's crime. This one is dedicated to the Raytheon 9. On a scam for the funds, they will mangle your son. If you try to speak out, they will stamp on your tongue. To your land they will come till you stand up as one. It's begun.
Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone. Keep your hand on your gun. Don't you trust anyone.
You think too highly of yourself. You're an amoeba, one leg on a centipede. What do you control? What can you control? Zoom out. If you find that your attention is drawn to other elements, other cells that appear separate from the whole, then look further, observe closer. Ask yourself if you're affected by any outside influences or entities that seem to be working independently of each other. I'll wait for you to catch up. Zoom out.
Tomorrows must be better days.
I'm here to make a difference. My album will manifest many things that I saw, did, or heard about.
We live in a world of sufferation, racial discrimination, brainwash education and manipulation, degradation, downpression. But every time I get down pressed, I feel strength through God's blessing. It still breaks my heart seeing the world fall apart as mankind being controlled by some evil blood clots. Little devil upstarts trying to turn light to dark, turn good to bad, happy to sad. I can't overstand all the war and violence, dictators and tyrants navigating wickedness like Lucifer's private pilots. Wolf in sheep clothing, moving silent across God's horizons, trying to disperse evil through the universe. Why the Holocaust? Why the tragedy? The life-taking savagery, the devil cavalry fighting his majesty. Insanity in human brains has overtaken the sane, like natural herbs overtaken by the crack cocaine. Who's to blame? Everyone who lacks the wisdom. If everybody had a third eye, we stop the devil's mission. Lucifer's coalition, religions based on fiction, false tablet inscriptions not wrote by Egyptians. Lyrically I cruise like Tom, explode like atom bombs, think thoughts that are telepathically sent from lands beyond. My brain cells swell similar to river banks when the sea rises and the rivers overflow. That's how my rhymes go, overflowing rhyme flows, knowledge and understanding like the phoenix that rose from the ashes and flew up into the sun's core. But my rhymes fly to heaven and knocks on God's door from a time and place where there's no earth and space, no trace of human race. That's where you'll find me, meditating on the brainwaves sent by G.O.D. God's disciples and angels be my soul's company. I operate naturally like Mother Nature. I grow naturally like the ganja cheese I smoke in Rizla paper. Process the planet's data like a human microchip to find the truth between the scientists and Bible scripts. A truth with 100% fact behind it. That's why I got my third eye to help I and I find it. People question life but never really search for answers. But once your life started, you can't be half-hearted. To live long, you gotta be strong, cause life's a test. And never question God's reasons, cause you know He knows best.
Screw the Babylon, watch them.
Yeah. Police brutality is still a big issue in the United States.
Understand your enemy.
There are thousands of cases reported annually of police misconduct. This goes out to Timothy Stansberry and all victims of police brutality.
Skunt.
It's time this comes to an end.
Them shoot at us, turn around and deny it. People on the streets are dying. We must come together, fight oppression and put the pressure on the system that tries to diss us, tries to hurt us and try to kill us. We don't win, we fight again. Watch you now. We gon' fight until the end. Jam in, until the end. We fight until we win. Until we win. Stop the madness, know the system.
Unjustified shootings, fatal choking, severe beatings. Police attack the innocent without fair reasons. Precincts are full of cowards abusing authority. Minorities abuse majority. People living in poverty. Priority is them doing right by the nation, but large parts of it's been human rights violation. Tired of being patient, waiting for eternal affairs to show and prove this. The truth is we've been burning for years. Use your weapons, fight back, kid. That's how the game goes. My boy Kevin got his skull cracked by pigs in plain clothes. They told him there's regrets if he doesn't stay calm, and proceeded to put cigarettes out in his palm. Now he can't think, he can't feel. Sometimes you gotta grab steel, blast kill before they send it you and serve your last meal. I know fighting back is easier said than active. Let's start moving forward and stop stepping backwards.
Them shoot at us, turn around and deny it. People on the streets are dying. We must come together, fight oppression and put the pressure on the system that tries to diss us, tries to hurt us and try to kill us. We don't win, we fight again. We gon' fight until the end. Until the end. We fight until we win. Until we win.
on the day me and Sabac red, drop dead, knocked by the feds. I get shot with a clock in the head. Like the bloods on the corner, the block will be red. And like the passion of Christ, there be a lot to be said. Fuck a protest in the street with all of my peeps. My soul will never let a crooked cop's family sleep. And you'll never find peace, even in retirement. Like Amadou Diallo, cops that turned into firemen. I give your children lying in the sleep and hypnosis. Nightmares about drowning in the ocean of roaches. Molested by dead bodies full of worms and locusts. But the insects are nothing when the judgment approaches. Call my spirit the coldest. You say that I'm bitter, but I'm sick of cops calling me a spigot and nigga. And you pigs probably won't get the message I write you. Cause the industry is racist, motherfuckers just like you.
Them shoot at us, turn around and deny it. People on the streets are dying. We must come together, fight oppression and put the pressure on the system that tries to diss us, tries to hurt us and try to kill us. We don't win, we fight again. We gon' fight until the end.
Not everyone is built for war when it comes to cops, and fear plays a part, so I'll inform you of your options. Get the names and badges of cops from the precinct. Show your face in the street so police know you decent. Keep them on their toes, take flicks and videos. Impose injustices, cause them clips could be gold. Hold a coalition in your building, a new movement. Raise cash, start a civilian review unit. Be aware of wrongdoings, inform your whole alliance. Write your senator to put an end to the code of silence. Let's unite, fight back, know our rights, watch the government apply better laws and enforce harsher punishment to pigs who beat kids for no apparent reason. We acted on the defense while battling the precinct. If the system won't respond to your truth and facts, bear arms that been worn, retaliate and shoot back.
Then shoot at us, turn around and deny it. People on the streets are dying. We must come together, fight oppression and put the pressure on the system that tries to diss us, tries to hurt us and try to kill us. We don't win, we fight again. We gon' fight until the end. Until the end. We fight until we win. Until we win.
Look, I'm not saying that all police are bad, but they have quotas that they need to meet. So what happens if there's not a lot of crime and there's not a lot of stuff going on in the streets? They can't meet their quotas. That's why they inflict, they incite these kind of things that go on in the streets so that they can meet their quotas. It's gotta stop right here and now. People rise up, put an end to police brutality. Know your rights, know your enemy. We will fight until the end.
I'm not guilty. You're the one who's guilty. The lawmakers, the politicians, the Colombian drug lords, all you who lobby against making drugs legal, just like you did with alcohol during the Prohibition. You're the one who's guilty. I mean, come on, let's kick the ballistics here. Ain't no Uzis made in Harlem. I mean, not one of us in here owns a poppy field. This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is big business. This is the American way.
This is an incredible time to be on this planet. It's a time when a true revolution is happening. I think in many respects, we're at a time in history that rivals the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution. At times like these, there are amazing, huge changes. And it's important for people to be prepared and understand that that's coming. And then I became an economic hitman. But suffice it to say that we economic hitmen have in the last few decades created the world's first truly global empire. And it's the first empire that's been created primarily without the military, through economics. We work many different ways, but perhaps the most common is that we will identify a third world country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. However, the money never goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our own corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, highways, industrial parks, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, as well as our own corporations. but do not help the majority of the people at all. The whole country is left holding a huge debt, and it's such a huge debt they can't possibly repay it. So at some point, the economic hitmen go back and say, you owe us a lot of money, you can't repay your debts, so give us a pound of flesh. Sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Vote with us on the next critical United Nations vote, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world, like Iraq. And in that way, we've created this empire. When I failed to bring them around, to get them to accept these loans, to get them to put their countries into servitude, then I knew that standing right behind me were what we call the jackals. These are people who overthrow governments or assassinate their leaders. And both Jaime Roldos of Ecuador and Omar Torrijos of Panama were assassinated by CIA-sponsored jackals because I failed to grow.